Just want to make a quick, never mind the mess in the background here. Forget anything inside the Blazer, but make a quick video showing how I bleed my brakes by myself. So for most people, they're familiar with the two-person method where one person gets in the car and then they press down the brakes. You open up the bleeders, and then once you open up the bleeders, you close the bleeders. Open up the bleeders, let all the air out, close the bleeders, and then they can release the brakes. Right? Everybody knows how to do a two-person bleed. All right, but most of the time I'm over here by myself. Sometimes my son will help me and everything, but I wanted a way to do this by myself. So I got a couple different things here. I'm gonna so a couple things that you'll need. Obviously, you'll need brake fluid. I always go with a big old. There's a little bit more left in there. I always go with brand new. This one's from O'Reilly's. You can get it from anywhere. This is a stick, and I'll show you where that goes. This thing, never mind this piece right here. All these parts that I have here, minus I guess the steel too. All these parts right here, I got at Home Depot. Right? You don't need anything special. All you really need, I'll tell you more about this after I show the rest. But anyways, this is my actual pressure bleeder setup. All right, you'll need a clamp to clamp that onto the master cylinder. This right here is not really required, but this is what I use. This is my spray. When I spray with a spray gun, I have this regulator to regulate down to about 15 psi. Obviously, you'll need a water bottle with a tube to catch the brake fluid. Cheap water bottle, drink your water. And then this is something I built. All right, I built it out of a vacuum bleeder that I had bought. You don't really need this per se, but I'm going to tell you what it does. So again, a simple valve. You got this that connects to the bleeder. These are PVC pipes. What size is this? 3-inch PVC. Don't really need to make it that big. I did so I can pour an entire bottle of brake fluid in here. And then it's capped. I tapped this with a quarter NTP. These are sold at Home Depot. This is a simple Schrader valve. This thing's old, by the way. One port is tapped or plugged. Then this right here is a 1/4-inch nipple that's on this bottle. So, and then you have this thing comes with a valve. What is this? I don't see. Oh, item number 61912 is when I built this. So, this one here is my reverse pressure bleeder, or I can actually use it for pressure bleeding. What do I mean by that? I can take this thing and I can hook it up to this, all right, into one of these ports, and I can pressure bleed if I want to. That's not what I usually do. This one is a reverse pressure bleeder, is what I mostly use it for. What you do is you put your pressure on here. I will just hook it up to my, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about, most people have a compressor. Mine's in the corner. This is your pressure. You can use a small compressor, a Viair compressor. Hell, you could use a compressor if you got airbags. I don't know. All you need is the ability to pump up about 15 psi. This reverse pressure bleeder, I fill this entire tube with brake fluid. This valve is normally closed. I pressurize it, making sure that, if you have this bottle attached, which I normally do, you want to close this, otherwise it's going to try to pressurize this bottle, right? Blow it up, I don't know. But you close this. So with this full of brake fluid, there's no possibility. So the air is trapped on the top, the brake fluid's on the bottom. You hook this up to the bleeder, and then you crack the bleeder open, and you're actually feeding the fluid from the bleeder into it goes from the bleeder all the way back to the master cylinder. You want to cover up the master cylinder because it's probably going to want to squirt some fluid out. But what that'll do is that'll push all the fluid from the lines into the master cylinder, and then once you're done, you can actually siphon off, take like a little a syringe and take out the fluid that's in there, fill it up with new fluid, close it up, call it a day. But that's not how I do it. What I normally use is this. This is just a scrap piece of steel that I had, 1/4-inch plate. Okay. This rubber is Viton rubber. You don't really need to use this. I use this because it'll last a long time. And you can see the outline of my master cylinder of how I kind of use this. Like I said, you don't really need this tube. I just have it, and I have this goes into my into the regulator, right? And you got this valve, which serves a couple purposes. All right. This will take the pressure off, and also I can take this bottle and refill the master cylinder without having to undo this thing here. So that's pretty much what that is for. So essentially what I do is, let me show you the purpose of this. This is just a simple piece of wood. One of the most important parts of this, or hell, probably the most important part, is you have to make sure that the brake pedal is pressed down. Otherwise the valve will not be open, and you essentially won't be able to get the fluid in there. So what I do is press my brake down, put this in there. The rag is to protect my seats. Boom. My brake is pressed. The valve, whoops, got a lot of shit coming out of here. The valve is open, so right now you are ready to actually bleed the brakes, okay? Then, this is my master cylinder. I got shit all over it, but so what happened is I had a leak on this right here, and I actually had no brake fluid in there, so the rear brakes were not working, so I'm going to be bleeding it today. Master cylinder, you pop it open, you see the shape of that, right? It is split, so this is the front, this is the rear. So that tool that I made right here, I have it offset. So this can be used if you have a master cylinder that is one chamber, then you can use it, but you can see the outline. So I take this, I put it on top of my master cylinder. Then I take this, or whatever, any kind of clamp, doesn't have to be, you could get one of them cheapo Harbor Freight, I have some around here. Here's a terrible one. Look at that. Here, let me zoom in. These ones from Harbor Freight, I use those. I use any kind of clamp that I need to in order to accomplish this. But anyways, you put this on top of your master cylinder, you clamp it down. Make sure that there's fluid in the master cylinder. This is pressure relief, and you can fill up the master cylinder once it goes dry. So you take this thing, which all this is just a valve, a nipple to put it into here. This has the Schrader valve, this is plugged, and then that I just tapped 1/4 NTP into that, and that's just a simple 1/4 NTP fitting. Okay, so when you're ready, you got your brake pedal pressed down. All right, your master cylinder's full. You make sure that this is closed. As you can see, you close this up. Then you can either do what I'm doing, which is put it into a regulator and regulate this to 15 psi, or if you really wanted to, you could press, I don't know, I guess you could have hell, you could do it with a bicycle pump or something. It's not gonna, you won't have good pressure, but what I do is I just hook it up to my compressor. I regulate it. You could regulate it from your compressor. That would be totally fine. I just like to use this one because it allows me to fine tune the pressure. So anyways, you put pressure into this Schrader valve here, and now the master cylinder is actually pressurized to 15 psi. And then all you do is you go bleed your brakes just like you normally would. You take this sucker and you attach it to the actual bleeder. You crack open the bleeder for a couple seconds. You'll see the bubbles coming out. You'll see the fluid coming out. Once you're good to go, you close the bleeder. You come up here. You relieve the pressure. Right? You'll feel pressure come out of there, and then you take this off. And you go and look, you take this off quickly, you look in the master cylinder, make sure that you still got fluid in there, because what'll happen is if you do this and you run the master cylinder dry, you're going to be pushing air into the lines, all right? And you don't want to do that. But you fill up the master cylinder, you go back, close your valve, clamp it back on. Then, so let's say you started on the rear passenger side. Now you go to the rear driver's side. You always want to start at the furthest one. So you do the rear driver's side, close this, pressurize the chamber because it's already clamped on. You go to the bleeder, connect this to the bleeder. You bleed the, crack open the bleeder. You'll see the air and the fluid start to come out. Close the bleeder back up. And then same process over and over again. Making sure you don't overfill your scrap bottle. Then you would go, for my master cylinder, which is split, I can stop right there for what I'm doing today because I'm only bleeding the rear. The front is just fine. For again, my master cylinder, as you can see, it's a split master cylinder. And all I do is, if I'm doing the front, I put it on there. If I do need to do the rear, I just put it on there so that the pressure goes into the rear. But once you get done, that's it. You go back and you fill up your master cylinder with fresh brake fluid. Top it off, not too much like I did, and spill it everywhere. And then put your master cylinder cap back on, and you're done. And the brakes are very, very firm. You have pressure bled with 15 psi. You've essentially used air pressure to push the actual fluid through the lines, and that takes the place of the person that's actually supposed to be pressing the brakes. Then you go up there, you take your piece of wood out of, take your piece of wood out from pressing on your seat or whatever. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. And that's it. There's so many different ways that you could do this. If you're doing the reverse pressure bleeding, it would be essentially sort of the same way. You would open up your master cylinder. You'd kind of cover it with a rag or something because fluid will spit like a geyser. And then you would fill this up with the fluid. Go to your, rear passenger side. Attach that. Crack open the bleeder. The fluid will actually go from here and press into the master cylinder. All right, making sure that the master cylinder doesn't overflow. That's a different problem. You make sure that the master cylinder does not overflow. And then you do the other side, and then once you're all done, you're done. And then, what I like to do is, if I'm reverse pressure bleeding, is I'll actually take all the fluid that's in the master cylinder after I'm done, and I will siphon that out or suck that out and then put fresh fluid in there. So that way, because if you don't know, when brake fluid is exposed to the air, it has it absorbs water out of the air, and it can make it go bad. So you don't want to get that. So I always try to replace whatever brake fluid I'm using, or I just replace the brake fluid with fresh stuff to keep it fresh. But I normally use this little pressure plate, I'm going to call. Again, you don't have to use this Viton rubber. I bought a sheet of it that I use to make gaskets for my fuel pump. And I just so happen to have this, but you can use any kind of rubber. If you use regular rubber, it might go bad after a while. But I have used this, on quite a few different cars, and it works very, 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 very well. I get a very good, firm brake pedal feel, and so there's other differences. So if you have, I don't have one in front of me, if your master cylinder, if your reservoir is one of them plastic ones, you'll probably have to make a cap or something like that. I guess you could make one of these that's like circular, that'll fit on the cap, and it's not like it needs that much pressure. You're just trying to hold a little bit. You can make that to adapt. I know the pressure bleeders, a lot of the pressure bleeders on the market have ones that you can just screw on to the thing, but this is a primitive way. This is just, I don't know how much this stuff costs, but I'm pretty sure it costs less than one of those expensive pressure bleeders. You do not have to have all this stuff. You could simply put a Schrader valve here. Like, see, let me take this off. So you could get rid of this. Oops, dang it. You could get rid of this, just have the Schrader valve connect and adjust your regulator on your compressor to 15 psi. Boom, that'll work just fine. Remember, a couple things to remember. You must depress the brake. You must keep it depressed while you are bleeding, otherwise the fluid can't move, or at least can't move freely. You would have to have a lot of pressure. And then when you get done, when you open up that master cylinder, always remember, relieve the pressure, because you'll hear it coming out, you know. But this is, so realistically, you could use this. Don't really need this. And you can use the bottle. All right. If you want to be fancy, like me, you can have the long tube. You can add that for just the pressure bleeding. Oh, you also need your clamp, but any kind of clamp. If you want to be really, really fancy, like me, you can use an adjustable pressure regulator that I just keep this around for different tasks. And if you want to get really, really fancy and go with the reverse pressure bleeding, you can use this setup. One valve. This is literally just a cap that I have drilled and tapped the PVC. It's not like you're holding tons and tons and tons of pressure. It's just literally tapped. Here's another note. As you can see, my brake lights are on because I have the piece of wood that's holding the brake down. Remember that. Don't leave that piece of wood in there overnight, because you're going to come back and your brakes will be, your battery will be dead. So just remember that part. Other than that, yeah, this is just how I do it. Maybe when I actually get in there to do it in just a minute, maybe I'll do a demonstration. I don't really think you need a demonstration, but all you're doing is, let me go over to the steps. Take these things, open up your master cylinder. You clamp this to either the front, the back, or if it's one chamber, clamp it to the master cylinder, right? You take this. Take this out of the loop. You put 15 psi. It can be straight from your compressor, whatever. Put 15 psi in there. Okay. You go to your car, depress the brake pedal, opening up the valve. Fill your master cylinder before you attach this. Then you go to your furthest brake, attach your tube, crack open the valve, crack open the bleeder. Watch for all the bubbles to come out. When you see the nice steady stream, close the bleeder. All right, go back up to the master cylinder, make sure that it's still got fluid in it. Repeat the steps, go to the next, this one. I'm gonna do this here in just a minute. It's probably gonna take me, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes to bleed my brakes. And when I say bleed them, I mean they're bled like very, very well. You could, if you wanted to. There's no reason to do a two-person bleed after that, but because, you know, once you do this, I mean, all the bubbles are out. You've essentially done a two-person bleed with one person. So that's just my little video showing how I one-person bleed my brakes, and yeah, that's about it. 1/4-inch plate, so that way it won't bend. Drill and tap 1/4-inch MTP. Couple cheap fittings. These things are sold in the tool aisles at all the parts stores. It's just an aluminum 3-way. You need a Schrader valve. This valve here, ball valve. Connect that to there. Boop. Close it. Bleed them. Relieve the pressure. You can open the thing. That's it.